Where you put the most contrast and the most color and the hardest edges, that's where the viewer's going to look the most.
Matt White. A creative soul, Matt discovered his passion for watercolor in his 30s and quickly turned his passion into a global teaching career. His work is known for his captivating atmosphere, beautiful storytelling. Along the way, he has built a thriving online platform, including a popular YouTube channel.
Light is generally what attracts me to the scene. I'm walking through my neighborhood and I see a nice light hitting the side of a house. I'll generally always stop and take a picture. It's been anywhere in the world, wherever I'm at. If I see a nice light effect, I just love it. Like warm light, evening light, sweeping shadows, all that stuff to me makes a much more dramatic, interesting, compelling painting.
What are the most common bad advices you hear?
I think a lot of students see what their favorite artists paint and they want to paint the same size. And I think that painting small and as often as you possibly can is really the key to improvement.
How do you teach people when to stop painting?
I go through the first wash, the lights of the scene. I go through the second wash, which is the middle values, try to find a connected shape within the scene. I get the darks in place. We can start to make things really look like something. Finally, we get to that exciting phase. And then that's a good time to take a step back.
What's your self-talk like?
It's such a big part. I think self-talk is just so crucial and important, and your mental well-being. Speaking kindly to yourself, encouraging yourself, not getting too hung up on results, giving yourself credit when you are showing up consistently.
Do you think that teaching is a kind of different muscles than just painting itself?
I think it is. You have to be able to see where people are struggling or reflect on where you have struggled and be able to formulate that into steps or into a way for people to kind of hold on to it. And I do think it's a different skill set. There are some amazing painters that aren't necessarily amazing teachers as well. So
welcome to Wet on Wet, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of watercolor with artists who bring it to life. Today we're thrilled to have Kansas City-based painter and educator Matt White. A creative soul, Matt discovered his passion for watercolor in his 30s and quickly turned his passion into a global teaching career. His work is known for his captivating atmosphere, masterful lighting handling, beautiful storytelling. Along the way, he has built a thriving online platform, including popular YouTube channel. He does retreats in France, Sicily, and more. In this episode, we'll try to explore his artistic evolution, teaching philosophy, and how he finds beauty in fleeting moments. Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
For people who don't know, could you just start with maybe who you are, where you're from, and then maybe a little bit about your childhood to get some sort of picture?
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Matt White, and I'm a watercolor artist and instructor. And I love to paint indoors. I love to paint outdoors. And painting has really been a great addition to my life, something that I came to a little bit later than some artists. I was 30 years old about when I started painting. So, that's about 10 years now. And it's just, painting has just added a richness to my life that, I've always had different creative endeavors throughout the years. I play music. I love to draw. I do video editing, throughout the years. But it wasn't until about the age of 30 that I started dabbling with watercolor. And I found that I really, really enjoyed the immediacy of it and the fluidity of it. And little did I know that it's also a very challenging medium as well. So it seemed like very accessible because, as a kid, you play with little watercolor sets and you can easily run out to the store and grab a watercolor set. So for me, that was kind of what drew me to it was just the easy access and portability. And I didn't have to learn, a lot about mixing oils and solvents and things like that. It seemed like a good entry into painting. And I fell in love with it and I started painting more and more and really found a way to combine my love for video making in editing, and also teaching watercolor. And that's kind of how my YouTube channel was born, and ultimately what led me into teaching watercolor as well. So as a kid, I didn't paint much, but I always loved to draw,
Mhm.
and it's kind of that through line that led me eventually into learning more about painting and getting into what I'm doing now. So I didn't have a lot of art exposure as a child, but uh, continuing to foster that passion of drawing throughout the years eventually led me to painting, and that's how I ended up here, learning and teaching and painting watercolor.
Now, so how long you been having your YouTube channel, Matt?
I think it's been, man, probably 6 or 7 years.
Yes.
When I first started, I didn't really, I wasn't consistent with it,
Mhm.
and I wasn't sure where it was going. I just knew that, I liked making videos, and that might be a good way to, get myself out there,
Mhm.
and just kind of start dipping my toe in the water of creating watercolor videos and also teaching as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
So
can't remember
is
exactly when I started the channel, but I think it's been about 6 or 7 years.
yeah.
About 4 years ago is when I started posting every single week, making
Okay.
something,
Yeah.
teaching a little something
Mhm.
every single week. And that's what really helped my channel, grow.
I mean, of the people who are on YouTube, I think you are one of the few artists who are using the internet as a leverage maximum or the efficiently than most of other people.
Mm,
Others, I see their videos not consistent, but not only is your video consistent, uh, over years you are better at explaining things. I'm not
mm.
saying that you weren't better before. I'm just saying is like
Yeah.
you have honed. I can see how you take your time to explain things slowly. It's very calming. And then
Mm,
also you got a very slick production. So you have a very nice production going on at the moment. So
mm.
your
Thank
lighting is good, your sound's good. And I feel as like, as I said, is like, I shamelessly try to look at your videos and then feel as like, there's definitely in terms of the subjects you pick, the way you teach and other things, I feel is like, it's a good indicator for somebody who wants to get into watercolor and other
you.
things. In terms of production, you probably is one of the good example out
Thank you.
there. Before is watercolor full time right now, man? Is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. So I'm full time teaching, painting,
Mhm.
occasionally doing workshops, retreats,
Yeah.
things of that nature. So it's been full time for me for 3 years now.
Okay. So how did you make the jump? So because I how what do you need? Is it just financial or what other things do you know? I am very interested to hear personally, but also there are a lot of people who wants to stop doing their 9 to 5
Hmm.
for various reasons and then do into
Hmm.
either art or any other thing. So what are the indicators or measurements you look at switching to?
Yeah. It was definitely a long process. I didn't, uh, wake up one day and say, I want to do this full time and make the leap. I was working full time in video production here in
Mm.
Kansas City.
Yeah,
So I was shooting, editing, 5 days a
yeah,
week.
yeah.
And I worked, this job for about 10, 11 years.
Mm.
And the last couple years, I actually switched to 4 days a week. So I had Fridays off. I had
Mm.
Fridays to focus on painting, on, turning this into a business,
Yeah,
and focusing on things like that. So I had Fridays, and then I had evenings, because I actually started to paint when I turned 30 after had my first child.
sure.
And if you have kids, you know that once you have a kid, your window of free time, it really shrinks. And so I had to get
Absolutely.
really selective about how I spent my time, and that was one of the driving forces that led me to painting. So to answer your question, I was painting nights, once my son was asleep, and eventually my daughter as well, and weekends just as much as I could, and really trying to be consistent. And
Yeah.
after I I was starting to see good progress in my paintings, and I was
Hmm.
just thinking, is there any angle I can take
Yeah.
where I could transition this into doing this full time? I love this. It's life giving. It's I feel really honored to be able to do this full time. But it was a process. First, I had to get better as a painter, and I needed
Hmm.
to study and improve. And that's still a big part of how I spend my time, is always continuing to improve. I feel like my teaching, my business as an artist is only going to go as far as I'm willing to put in to continue to grow as an
Yeah.
artist. So I feel like that's important. But slowly over time, I started getting momentum.
Hmm.
I started a Patreon before I started my kind of my own thing on the side, and that was good because it got me um, uh, posting tutorials and then seeing the questions that people had under the
Hmm.
videos. And that was a good way to kind of gauge, where are people getting hung up? What are they struggling on? And then I was able to take those things and start, and YouTube was the same way, but it's kind of a snowball process. The
Sure.
more videos I would make, the more I would kind of understand what questions people were having. And
Hmm.
I could reflect on my learning too. Like, where did I get hung up the most? What are the things that helped me take the biggest leaps forward? And over time, I start working those into the videos, and I'm getting a little bit momentum on YouTube, and that was good. But I was still a really long ways off from ever getting, being in the position where I could leave my full time job.
Sure.
But so then I started to learn about building courses, building an email list, and how to actually monetize what it is that I was doing, other than just, getting lucky on a few YouTube videos and getting some plays there.
Yeah.
But really using YouTube as a discoverability engine,
Hmm.
YouTube being the second largest search engine in the world after Google. So making, good how-to videos, good quality how-to videos, teaching watercolor, it was gaining some momentum and building, a bigger audience. And once I learned how to build the audience and get, as much of that audience as I can onto an email list, then I was able to develop a course and eventually offer a course to sell. And then I transferred away from doing Patreon into my own watercolor community, where I had more control and I could offer more things to students. And it was those two things that helped me, continue to gain momentum and eventually leave my video production job to do this full time. So there was a lot. I know that was a lot to
No,
unpack.
it is fantastic. Now I am
Yeah.
just listening. I'm saying is like, there were so many nuggets in what you said and did. It was such a interesting take on what you did, right? So just to recap a few things which I really liked is you were tuned to just improving the process itself by just listening to customers, right? Look at Amazon, Google, and everything. They are listening to customers, and then also now it makes sense when you look at your video. You have background with video production and the video quality
Hmm.
of the things. Makes a big difference because
Yeah.
when I look at your videos, your quality is so far better than most of the other people who might, let's for an argument, paint better.
Hmm.
Their video quality sucks, is that lighting is not correct and other things. So I feel now it makes so much sense to just to watch your video as a good indicator of how a good watercolor video should look like. I
Hmm.
mean, not just watercolor, just not all watercolor. And
Yeah.
also, I like the fact that you mentioned that you didn't just wildly jump into watercolor. You kind of took a day off to
Yeah.
expand, stretch. I got twin boys, so I completely understand. I got 7-year-old twin boys. My time is very limited, so I have to plan either just after when they sleep. So
Yes.
today I had to get them sleep a little sooner so that I can get back to the podcast. And the fact that you also mentioned is like being very clever about having that email list. All
Hmm.
these things, I'm very late in the game. It's only now, it's been a year since I've started collecting emails.
Hmm.
I've been paying more attention about the workshop, the reviews, and other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just this section, how you told and what you told about how to think about as a business, you didn't talk
Hmm.
about being it as a hobby. I think it
Yeah.
underscores how much you have thought about this
Yeah.
in a while. Yeah,
Yeah, it did take a, I mean, and continues to take a lot of thought and
yeah,
effort. And just like, anything, like just like painting,
yeah.
my teaching and video skills improve the more that I do them. Just like, my advice to students is paint small and paint often.
Yeah.
And I think that advice is probably pretty sound for anything you're trying to pursue,
Mhm.
is try to do a little bit as often as you can and keep coming back to it.
Yeah. So
And
let's yeah. Sorry to cut you. Sorry.
no, that's all I had to say about that.
Sorry. Let's go back to 30, right? How did you start, or what kind of subjects did you pick when you were doing your watercolors? And
Yeah.
then also, I'm interested is like, when did you think that, you know what, I'm pretty good at this one?
Hmm. Yeah. Like many watercolor artists, my first inspiration was Joseph Zbukvich,
Hmm.
and I still just love his work. I'm just a sucker for it. Just the way that he has so much knowledge about values and how to make a painting work, and he paints in such a loose and free way, and you see him paint and he just gets it out on the paper, but then his paintings are so sound, you know and and so I fell in love with his work, because I first, I was like, ooh, watercolor, I'm really getting into this. I wonder what watercolor artists are out there. So, you know, at work when I would have a spare moment, I'd be on Pinterest, just scrolling and finding, ooh, this guy's really good. Who's this? And, it was really fun just discovering this world of artists, and, falling in love with a lot of different styles of painting. But he was the first one that really caught my eye. And street scenes, right away, I knew I wanted to paint street scenes, and
Hmm.
I still do. Um, so that was a subject that I was drawn to right away, and I loved how he painted street scenes, and I really studied his work a lot, along with some other people early on. Um, but man, looking at his paintings and trying to like just do a study of them is so hard, you know. But yeah, it's like you don't know what you don't know when you first start, so you just kind
Yeah.
of jump in the deep end, and just keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and slowly you like, oh well, this one looks better than that one. Why? And then you start to get curious about that.
Hmm.
And then workshops were and videos were a big part of my learning.
Yeah.
I once I got into Joseph Zbukvich and I found out he had all these videos you could watch. I would watch all of his videos, and I got to do a workshop with him in 2017,
Hmm.
and that was really nice too. And he was super encouraging to me. I'd only been painting for about a year at that time, so a lot of his demos and teaching were way over my head, but I was just doing the best that I could. Andy Evenson was also a huge inspiration. I mean, you can tell by looking at my work. I see, I've drawn a lot of inspiration from him, and he's a fantastic teacher, teaching values, which was absolutely key, to my progression. Um, yeah, so diving in, just buying way too many watercolor books, watching all the videos I could find, and then just practicing. Every night after a day of work, and being with the family, and that was really my time to recharge. And being an introvert, when the house is quiet and I can just paint and like put on some music or something, it's just perfect.
Hmm.
That was, I think, being that kind of person that draws energy from those quiet moments. Painting was always something that kind of, gave that to me, and kept fueling me to continue pursuing this.
So, were you ever tempted to switch from watercolor to oil or acrylic? Why?
Yeah.
Why? No.
No, and I wasn't, just because, there's so much to learn with watercolor, and I'm so far down the road with watercolor now, and
Yeah.
I've invested so much in learning this medium, and I feel like I still have so much to learn and so
Hmm.
many things to explore, that, I've dabbled with like charcoal and things like that. I just, maybe, later down the road when life isn't so full,
Hmm.
I might be tempted to like try some other mediums, but as As of now, it's me in watercolor, so I'm sticking with that.
Now, yeah, I can completely resonate with your story. For me, that was Alvaro Castigny. So I
Yeah.
took a class in 2013 for a week with Alvaro, and then when I took a class, I was just got into painting. I
Oh,
think I
yeah.
was
I,
painting
I
about a
bet that
year.
was probably a great experience.
So that kind of triggered me to paint more. And now, as I said, it's like I'm invested into watercolor, and I want to. It's very true. When I look at my paintings, all I look at things which I could improve, right? So like Malcolm Gladwell, you got to put your 10,000 hours a little
Hmm.
more just
Hmm.
to get the confidence. I feel is like confidence comes from the skill, and the skill comes
Yeah.
from discipline. So it's just
Yeah.
cycle. And by the way, Andy Evanson is coming on the podcast. I think I've
That's
recorded
great.
last week. So I've got,
Yeah.
I think he's coming sometime in November because I'm doing it two every month. So he's coming
Hmm.
sometime in November. And then you probably
Nice.
will come in first week of December or something like that. I will
Yeah.
get, yeah.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he was full of advice, and then such a generous man in
Hmm.
terms of talking, and then his style and other things.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, well, I just wanted to catch on. When did you start feeling that your watercolor is good enough that I can start teaching, or is it just
Mm.
people started asking? How was that transition?
Yeah. Good question. I think it was a slow transition over time as I built up confidence myself, as an artist. But I also think that, I mean, not everyone has to be a teacher, but
Hmm.
I do think that for those that want to go down that road, if you are a few steps ahead of people that don't know anything about watercolor, then you have something to teach them. If someone
Yeah.
doesn't know, how to do a basic wash or how to mix a certain color, but you know how to do that, then you
Hmm.
do have something to teach. And I think that, um, getting some experience, getting a big stack of paintings, out of the way, and continuing to learn and grow and draw from my inspirations and the people that I've learned from, that it just kind of it developed over time. And I think that, um, teaching every single week on YouTube has
Hmm.
really, really helped me. So I can't remember the exact moment when I thought, I think I'm good enough to teach this, but it kind
Hmm.
of grew over time, and I would start making more and more videos. And then as I'm learning new things, I would teach those things to my audience, and that would resonate with them as well. Um, yeah, it developed over time. And I think as I get down the road, having done this for, painting 10 years, teaching, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years, I can see how much I have to learn as a teacher and a painter, but I can also
Hmm.
look back and see how far I've come as a teacher and a painter too.
So, do you think that teaching is a kind of different muscles than just painting itself?
I think it is, because you have to be able to see where people are struggling or reflect on where you have struggled, and
Hmm.
be able to formulate that into steps or into, a way for people to kind of hold on to it. And I do think it's a different skill set. There are some amazing, amazing painters that aren't necessarily, amazing teachers as well. So I don't know. I don't think it goes hand in hand. But yeah, it is something you can learn, I will say, just like painting. So if that's something you're passionate about, you can always improve and get better, just like you can in some of the other skills that you have to do as well.
No, completely agree. What is the most common bad advice you hear in watercolor? I mean, I
Hmm.
know there's a lot of advices people give, but what are the most common bad advices you hear
Huh.
often?
Let me think on that for a sec. Most common bad advice. And nothing comes to mind. I'll just say a few things that, like, I kind of thought
Hmm.
that I've been able to get away from as I've been painting longer. And one of them is painting large paintings.
Yeah.
I think a lot of students see what their favorite artists paint and they want to paint the same size. And I think that painting small and as often as you possibly can
Yeah.
is really the key to improvement, especially because watercolor, so much of what you're paying attention to is right on the paper, and you
Hmm.
have a limited time to do certain things within your wash or within the painting process. And the more repetitions that you get, the more comfortable you're going to be with those things. So I would just, I mean, I don't know that I hear someone saying, to paint large, but I do see that a lot, in workshops or when I do critiques or things like that, where students feel like, well, I got to paint this big scene, and I'm like, it's okay to paint small, really. So that's one thing that comes to mind.
So when you say small, are you talking about 1/8 or what's a small painting for
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So maybe an eighth of a sheet, so half of a
Yep.
quarter sheet.
Yep.
Um, I consider that a small painting.
Sure.
Even just doing quarter sheets, I mainly paint quarter sheets.
Yep.
Occasionally, I'll do half sheets, and I want to get into more half sheets.
Hmm.
But I think a quarter sheet is a really good size
Yep.
to get the washes flowing. It's not too small, not too big.
Yep.
So, yeah,
And I feel it's like the half quarter sheet is perfect for YouTube videos where you can still put in the cameras high enough that you can cover
yeah.
both.
There you go. Yeah, you
I
can
feel
fit it all in
that's a sweet
frame.
spot. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
a good sweet spot. Could you talk about some beginners' mistakes? You've been teaching for a while. What are the common beginners' mistakes you see often, and then maybe a couple of them, if you can suggest solutions which you think has a big learning or cuts down the learning term?
Yeah. Man, one thing I could go a lot of ways with this, but one thing I see a lot of is a lot of contrast in the background of the painting. So
Hmm.
really strong contrast with really hard edges in the background of the scene. And
Hmm.
and one kind of aha moment for me was realizing that where you put the most contrast and the most color and the hardest edges, that's where the viewer's going to look the most. So focusing that in the middle of the painting, finding an area of the scene that is prominent and giving it more attention, giving it more contrast than the other
Hmm.
areas, that's a good way to focus your painting. Your painting becomes a lot more meaningful and polished and focused if you can pay attention to those things. So I see a lot of students, they might get one size of brush and just load it up and just do a lot of just texture, just the same brush mark, too much texture, all over the back of their painting where there's some like distant trees. So
Sure.
just understanding the foreground, the middle ground, the background, and bringing some of that awareness to how you paint. So you
Hmm.
don't just focus on the background. Well, what does the background look like in this photograph? And you try to copy it exactly. Then what does the middle ground look like in the photograph? You try to copy it exactly. If you do that and you don't run it through some type of filter on how you interpret the scene as an artist, then your painting is really unfocused. And so I think focusing the painting, I think makes a massive difference.
So, in your teaching, do you try to limit to three layers: background, middle, and then foreground, or is
I,
it?
I don't limit myself necessarily, but I like to look at the painting when I'm
Mhm.
painting it and think about organizing a little bit. Like
Sure.
what do I want the foreground to do here? I don't want to overwork it. I want to lead into the scene. Okay, the
Mhm.
middle ground where most of the attention is, what do I want that to look like? Okay, the
So,
background, I want to kind of minimize. I want to cool down the hills in the distance. I want to lower the amount of contrast. Maybe I want to paint things a lot softer in the background. So just thinking through that way, no real hard, fast rule, but just learning how to organize the scene and to focus it made a big difference for me.
so what about value sketch? Do you tend to do value sketch for every painting, or is it something you do as an exercise for teaching, or how does
Oh, a value study? Is
yeah,
that
value study? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great for teaching. If
Hmm.
I had more time in the
Yeah.
day, I would be doing a value study probably
Sure.
before every scene. But if there's something complicated and I'm not getting a good feel for how this is going to look, doing a
Hmm.
value study in eliminating color, even,
Yeah.
that helps you get a better handle on the subject. So I don't do value studies all the time just because of time, really. But if there's a subject I'm struggling with, I definitely do it. When I'm teaching workshops, I go over the process, and because it's very helpful too. But yeah, that's kind of the role that value studies play.
Sure. In terms of your watercolor process, so what is important for you? So is value, so or composition, or how do you think about? Is it light? What makes a significant impact on your painting? How do you start thinking about your watercolor process?
Yeah. So light is generally what attracts me to the scene. So if
Okay.
I'm walking through my neighborhood and I see a nice light hitting the side of a house,
Hmm.
I'll generally always stop and take a picture.
Yeah.
Then anywhere in the world, wherever I'm at, if I see a nice light effect, I just love
Mhm.
it. Like warm light, evening light, sweeping shadows, all that stuff to me makes a much more dramatic, interesting, compelling painting. So if I'm thinking through light, I've got to think through values because that's the only way I'm going to get the light to shine in my paintings is if from the very start, I'm thinking about where's the brightest part of the painting? Where do I want to focus the light? And then from there, you know that everywhere else in the scene can be a little darker than that area of the paint. So even in the first wash, I can already start thinking through how I want to focus the scene, where's the most important light, and go from there. So I'd say light kind of leads, not always, but leads a lot of the scenes that I want to paint. And then value is definitely king and will make the painting work. And I think through values way more than I even think through mixing.
Okay.
Is mixing is developed for me over time, but I had to understand the values first in order to build the foundation for good paintings.
No, I completely agree. Also, when you're painting, one of the questions I get is like, when do people stop painting, right? So, do you have an idea, or how do you teach people when to stop painting?
Yeah. Well, that's a tough question because a lot of times you can overwork the thing without realizing you got there. So after I go through the first wash, the lights
Hmm.
of the scene. I go through the second wash, which is the middle values, try to find a connected shape within the scene.
Yeah.
When I get to the darks and the details, I start in that middle ground area I was telling you about, that where the most attention is. I start there first. I get the
Mm.
darks in place. We can start to make things really look like something. Finally, we get to that exciting phase. And then that's a good time to take a step back. I
Yeah.
always tell students, step away from your painting often.
Yeah.
Make a few marks, step back. You want to know how areas relate to each other and not just stand on their own. You have to be looking at the full painting.
Yeah.
Um, and so I preach that a lot. And I also say, this is something I learned from Andy Evenson, and I think it definitely rings true. Get your painting to about 80 or 90%,
Yeah.
and then step away from it. And
Sure.
that's it, because painting in watercolor, as you know, that's a tough mental exercise. From the time you pick your subject, from the time you lay in your drawing,
Yeah.
as you think through every single wash, if you've been working for 2 hours, constantly thinking and making decisions, we run into decision fatigue, right? I mean, just like anything else in life, if you're always making decisions and everything, you run into decision fatigue, and you don't want to make the wrong decision because you can't often correct it. So when I get to that point, I might step away. I might go get a drink. I might look at it the next day and
Yeah.
finish it up, and when I'm fresh. So that's kind of my process for finishing the painting. So I always tell students, slow down near the end of your painting, right?
Hmm.
You don't want to make marks that you're going to regret. I know so many times early on, I do a street scene and I'd be like, okay, I want to add these wires in. And then you go in and add a wire and you're like, oh, great. Now I have this thick line all the way across my painting, right?
Yeah.
So take your time, get your scrap paper out, practice your
Yeah.
marks before you put them
Yeah.
on your painting.
Yeah.
Really approach the ending of your scene um, with some caution, and try to be fresh when you make those final marks on your painting.
Yeah. No, for me, the birds when I was early on learning. So I've done the painting. The painting looks good, and
Yeah,
then I try to put a bird, and then it's a
and
big
then you get a
splotch.
pterodactyl. You
Oh,
know,
it's just yeah. You feel like, oh, uh,
it's not a good feeling, is it?
It's not a good feeling, but also I am a very impatient guy. So for me, watercolor suits me is because I can quickly
Uh,
do a painting, but also
yeah.
oil and acrylic, you could correct it and do something. There's a couple of things I've been trying to, it has helped me is one is for highlights and other things, I now use a white gouache
Hmm.
instead of watercolor. So there's a little more opaque, and then you can
Yeah.
use it over the watercolor. So you get better highlights. And then also, as I said, is like, I tend to focus on just the focal area, finish that, and then other things is we will see how it goes. But
That's smart.
yeah, yeah. Could you just go through how a day looks like, an ideal day looks like for Matt?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I have two kids here at home and a wife, and I love spending time with them.
Hmm.
Our days right now it's summertime, so our schedule is kind of out of whack and things
Yeah,
are a little tricky. But typically I get up, get the kids around. If school's in session, I'm dropping the kids, I'm coming home and probably get through emails, things like that. And um, it depends for me because I have production days where I'm filming YouTube videos, or
sure.
I have days where I'm just focusing on painting.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I'll come home in the morning. I'll kind of see what I'm doing that day. If I'm filming, I like to get it done early because I'm fresh and I want to get my thoughts out and get that part of it done. And so I might film a video, and then I might spend a good amount of the day at my easel. I might go through some reference photos.
Hmm.
Sometimes if I don't have a full session to commit to just painting, I might draw, think through the scene, set myself up for the next day.
Sure.
And then there's usually something going on with the business, getting through emails, obviously whatever business things need to happen.
Yeah.
And then in the afternoon it's picking up the kids, it's coming home, it's family dinner
Yeah.
time together, and then we kind of do the whole thing over again. So that's kind of a typical day for me here in Kansas City. I do like to travel when
Hmm.
possible. I don't like being away from home a lot because I have a young family and I like to be home. But so I recently got back from a retreat in Sicily, and that was a great time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of a typical day, and then the outliers are the times when I'm going abroad or painting somewhere else or doing a workshop or something different.
Yeah.
So
No, no, no. Is it fair to say that you're more productive in the morning then than evening is because of the family?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I don't actually get out and paint a lot in the evenings, and
sure.
in my mind, that's something I'll get. When the kids are older, and my evenings will be more free.
Yeah,
But for now, if I am painting outside, I like to get out and do that in the morning. I
yeah,
like the light. Here in Kansas City, it gets really hot
yeah,
in the summer, so if I'm going to be outside painting, it's going to be generally the first thing I do in the morning if I'm
yeah,
not painting in the studio.
yeah. I wouldn't have asked other watercolor, but you are a pro at production. So could you just go through what camera you use for your YouTube and what's a basic setup looks
Yeah.
like for yours?
So I'm looking at it now, and I think it's a Canon 50D. I can't
Okay.
remember. It's a DSLR camera,
Yep.
so it has a nice lens on it
Yep.
that adds some softness in the background.
Hmm.
And I can't show you the setup because I'm kind of sitting in it right now.
No, no, that's all right. It's just yeah,
Yeah, I'll have the camera in the corner,
yep,
and I'll shoot kind of this way with my studio in the background.
yep,
And you've seen a lot of my videos. Some of
yep,
them are me just talking about something, and others
okay,
are me doing a screen capture of a recorded painting where
yep,
I will talk about my process from the beginning to the end. There might be a specific thing that I want to talk about. I just record a video talking about layering to create light. So
yep,
I'm painting a desert scene, going through what's happening in the first wash, second wash, third wash, and just kind of showing that,
sure,
talking through all of my steps. And then I still do all my own editing too, for
yep.
the most part. So, I'll have shooting days, and then I'll have days where I need to spend time editing. So the editing also is a part of, how I spend my day, or at least a portion of my week.
So
Um,
what's your go-to software for editing?
I use Premiere Pro,
Premiere Pro.
Adobe.
And then do you have assistant, or is it just all solo at the moment?
It's all me
Yeah,
at this point. I think down the road, I would like, an editor because um, I do spend quite a bit of my time editing right now,
yeah, yeah,
and I still enjoy editing,
yeah,
but it is kind of a bottleneck for my
yeah,
production.
yeah,
And I think there will be a day where I pass off most of my editing and just work on making more content and just spending more time at the easel,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
really why I do all this, right?
Absolutely. Now, this year I made a switch because I wanted to do this podcast. So
Mm.
I have a editor right now. So that's only way with a 9 to 5 job, two
Yeah,
kids, and other things. The only way this podcast is going to happen is if I get some help. So
that's
this
smart.
year I bite the bullet, and then I have a editor right now, and then it's going well at the moment. I
Good,
have an editor for like four
fantastic.
months right now. Yeah, it's definitely. I think I could have. I should. Now I think about it, I should have done it a little sooner.
That's
But
probably how I'm gonna feel when I make
yeah,
that switch.
yeah. But at the moment, that's where it's going. Uh, could you talk about how you motivate yourself at the moment? Is that a problem at the moment, or
Good
how
question.
how what's your self talk like?
Yeah. Oh man, great question. I love mindset stuff.
Yeah.
I just it's such a big part. If I hadn't paid attention
Hmm.
and been somewhat dedicated to
Yeah.
my own mental well-being and
Hmm.
growth, I don't know that I would be doing this right
Sure.
now. You know, it takes a lot to I mean, there's a lot of obstacles. There's imposter syndrome, like that question you were asking, when do you know you're ready to teach? Well, I don't know. Sometimes you got to jump in and try it, even
Yeah.
if you feel
Yeah.
like you're
Try.
not ready, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think self-talk is just so crucial and
Yeah.
important, and your mental well-being. And you know, there's a lot of directions I could go with this, but just trying to be as I get older, trying to be kind to myself,
Hmm.
knowing the same thing I tell my students, that um, speaking kindly to yourself, encouraging yourself, not getting too hung up on results, but really uh, giving yourself credit when you are showing up consistently and making that the thing that you strive for is consistency, showing up to that easel when you don't feel like showing up to the easel, right? Painting when you don't necessarily feel like it.
Yeah.
And if you listen to anyone who is at the top of their game, whether it's an
Yeah.
athlete, anyone that you look up to, that decided to take a passion of theirs and turn it into something they do professionally, they are the ones that are practicing when they don't feel like it, right? They're the ones that are showing up consistently, and I mean that's the name of the game. Something I offer, I mentioned in a YouTube video, is getting a practice calendar.
Yeah.
Just hang a calendar on your wall every day that you show up and paint and
Yeah.
do something meaningful for your art practice. You cross off the day. And so
Mm.
that when you're upset that a painting didn't turn out, or you didn't get into a show that you wanted to, or whatever inevitable disappointment comes your way, you can look at that calendar and you can see every time that you decided that you were going to show up and paint. And
Mm.
that does make a difference. Those days, they add up, right? That progress adds up and it builds exponentially.
Mm.
And so celebrate that. Celebrate consistency. Celebrate choosing to do this rather than sitting on the couch and watching TV, like the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my approach mentally, is just try to hang my hat on consistency and showing up rather than the results, because the results will come over time if you're consistent.
Yeah. No, no. It reminds me of the book, who's the Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art.
Mm.
He talks about what he calls as resistance, things
Resistant. Oh
which,
yes. Yeah.
yeah. So the whole book is about resistance, right? Things which you should be doing, which you are not doing.
Yeah.
And if you're ever doubtful what needs to be done, look at things which you're avoiding. Those are the things you should be doing. Eh?
Yeah.
And for an artist or any person in any field, like you said, putting your miles behind the brush for us as a watercolor artist is important, right? So
Yeah.
because there's lots and lots of fantastic artists. You look at those reference, you practice, yeah, you do that, and then you can see. Yeah. But I think that for an artist, I feel it's like Stephen Pressfield. It's a very, very small book. It's literally you
Hmm.
can read in a few hours.
Hmm.
The War of Art, and he talks about resistance. That's been
That
one
is
of
a
the
good book.
easiest. Yeah. Very, very interesting book. As in that one, and then again, Malcolm Gladwell, the 10,000 hours. It resonates the same thing, right? Having the discipline to sit, do. I was listening to Jerry Seinfeld's episode. His every morning 2 hours he needs to write jokes,
Is
even
that
if
right?
it matters that doesn't matter if he doesn't write a single joke, but those 2 hours he's sitting in front of his yellow pad.
Uh,
So it doesn't matter if there is not a single word written, but that's a discipline. He needs to sit there 2 hours, and then he can do whatever he wants to do. Yeah,
that's
so
that's the key.
that's the key. Yeah.
Another book
Uh,
I would recommend is called The Gap and the Gain
okay.
by see if I can remember his name. Um, I'm sorry, I don't, David Sinclair and oh man,
I
darn.
can look into it and then make sure that
Yeah.
I'll add it in
So
the
The Gap and the
description.
Gain
Yeah.
it has been a good book for me. It's something I probably should listen to like once a year
Yeah.
or read once a year. But the basic premise is you should always be measuring backwards and
Mm,
running your own race.
yeah.
Right? Comparison is the thief of joy. That's why
Absolutely.
Instagram
Yeah.
is so toxic,
Yeah.
right? That's why social media can be so troublesome for people, and comparison. So
Yeah.
if you're always like keep your first paintings, that's what I would say. I
Mm,
like showing mine to students because they need to know that everyone starts in the same place, right?
yeah.
Everyone struggles with the same things. And if you can continue to look at your own process, your own progress, I should say,
Mm, yeah.
and try to minimize comparison,
Yeah.
that's when you can really experience joy in working through to improve at something that you love.
Yeah. So on the flip side, how do you manage frustration, Matt? So if you get frustrated, or if you do, how do you bounce back from it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, there's frustration and disappointment that comes in any endeavor that's worthwhile. I, you know, I'm not great at it, but I have a meditation practice.
Mm,
And I have got to get out for a walk every day, like at least a
sure.
couple miles. So just being active physically, getting away from screens and anything that is vying for your attention,
Yeah.
and getting that little bit of clarity, that always helps me get things in perspective. If I'm feeling frustrated, disappointed, things like that. Also, you got to just allow yourself to feel it too. You can't just not acknowledge it and shove it down. You got to get through it. The same thing I tell my kids is, disappointment, difficult feelings, those things we should don't run away from them. You
Yeah.
should ride them like a wave, right? Understand it won't be a permanent feeling of discomfort. So let yourself get over that wave and understand that it's going to be okay. So those
Yeah.
are some of my strategies.
No. Because it's very important. I think because, as you very mentioned it, this is a very long-term game.
Yeah,
This is definitely it's not a sprint for sure.
that's
Um,
a great point.
it takes it takes a long time, and then consistently looking at a long picture uh, kind of helps to just to have a long
Yeah,
shot. And then I
definitely.
think what you told about day when you paint it to just to put a cross mark, I think
Mhm.
it's a interesting thing, right? I tend to put in a small. There's a jar. I put in days when I painted. I scramble a small piece of paper and then put in that because
Love
that's
it.
the easiest way to do it is to just to scramble a small paper
That's a good
and then
visual
yeah.
example.
So that way I can see the jar coming up. Any day I've put in anything more than 15 minutes, I generally crumble a
I
small
like
piece of
that.
paper and then put it.
That's
Uh,
good.
the calendar, it's the same idea, right?
Yeah.
So because what I want is to visually see there is progress
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way
Uh,
to think of it.
yeah. So because for my kids, I keep telling them there's three things they need to be thinking about: happy, wealthy, healthy. Right?
Mhm.
You got to focus on all the three things. Especially with the AI, we
Mhm.
don't know how things going to shape.
Yeah.
Uh, Talking about AI, what are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah. I have conflicting thoughts and they change, you know, back and forth.
Yeah,
I think AI could be a great tool for a lot of things, but it's a big question mark right now.
yeah,
And I don't know. I'm just in wait and see mode. Um, yeah, I am hopeful that we
hmm
will get down the road and there will be a countercultural movement back to handmade, authentic, real, human created things.
mm.
And I think AI right now, it's kind of a runaway train. It's the new shiny thing. It's evolving daily, you
Yeah,
know. I mean, we can all see the silly videos are getting more and more realistic,
yeah,
right? Um, so I don't know, coming from someone who's a video editor, who my old profession is probably going to be obsolete,
yeah,
soon if it isn't already. Um, I'm not sure. I think I'm just in wait and see mode, but I
yeah,
do hope that there's a good countercultural movement to handmade,
mm.
organic, real, authentic.
Yeah,
Because humans need to be making music and paintings and things that are meaningful. And I can tell you this: when I see things that haven't been made by a human, I don't get that same excited feeling
yeah,
anymore. Coming from a video production world, it is shocking. When I first started getting into video, DSLR cameras were just becoming popular. So you could shoot something that looked film like in
mm.
this little camera, and everyone was going nuts. Like, oh, this is amazing. People were shooting short films on DSLR cameras, and and I remember, learning that field, some, visual effects or like digital creation or things like that. When I would see something that would kind of surprise me, it was exciting.
Yeah,
And I feel like AI has just kind of taken all the joy out of that type of creation. It's like, I see things now that I'm like, I don't get that same excitement. Like, ooh, how did they make this? It's like
yeah,
an algorithm that spits something out,
yeah,
or a computer that spits something out. So coming from a video production um, place, it's strange.
yeah,
But I will say that we also can't just stick our head in the sand and pretend it's not
yeah,
here, because it's going to change a lot of things in our lifetime, in my kids' lifetime. So I don't know.
yeah.
That's
No,
what I'll say for that.
no, I am optimistic that what you said is like, I can concur to that one. The one of the examples I think about is when the smartwatch came, there was a
Mm.
big doom and glory about all the watch industry, right? It
Oh,
has gone completely opposite right now. There's more value to a handmade watch than a smartwatch. A smartwatch is now a basic thing which you wear for day to day things,
yeah,
and a timepiece or a Swiss made
yeah,
or a Japanese made is more of a luxury or a statement. I
yeah.
feel the artwork is going to be the same thing. There's going to be artwork for advertisements and
Wow.
other general applications where AI and other things are going to be profoundly helpful and easy for people to create. But those small moments where you want to share it with somebody or you want to show somebody that you have learned or done something,
Yeah.
I feel that artwork's going to be more prominent. And especially with the AI, there is a fear of there's not going to be any more jobs left, right?
Mhm.
So, hypothetically, if there is no jobs, what will humans do?
Right.
And I feel people will pursue things like music, art, literature, and other things which has inherent flaws or what makes it human. So I am positive about it, but also, as you said, is like, people who knows how to use the AI tools will survive in
Mm.
the AI generation. So I think
Yeah.
being an artist and then utilizing AI as a leverage is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, it can do amazing things.
Yeah,
A small example that I was I was happy to see was I recorded a long critique video,
yeah,
probably 15, 20 students' critiques all through
mm,
QuickTime.
yeah,
And when I hit stop recording, this has happened to me multiple times where it just
yeah,
created some type of issue. Anyway, it didn't give me the video. It
yeah,
just was caught within QuickTime, and I was like, "Oh man, this is such a headache. I don't want to re-record all these critiques." So I used ChatGPT to walk me through recovering that file in a way
Yeah.
that you can't Google something like that.
No,
You
absolutely.
would have to dig around forever. And it walked me through finding that file buried deep within my computer, and I rescued it, and I was like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah. No, no, especially summarizing something,
Yeah.
because I work as a mechanical engineer. So in the a lot of meetings and other things, with the Copilot and other things, instead of before, you used to spend a lot of time doing minutes of meeting. Who needs to do the action items and other thing? These days, is just you summarize the minutes of meetings and actions very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but I'm positive about AI, and also I feel it's like people, even though some people say that YouTube is already, we are a bit late to get into YouTube game. I
Mm,
just feel it's like it's just a beginning,
mm,
uh, because when you look at the growth of YouTube in India and other places where people are just getting into
yeah.
cheaper internet, we're just in the cusp of doing things.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm more positive. So even if it's late right now, I would rather do it now than not do it.
Yeah.
Uh, could you? We can talk about a few things about where you want to see yourself as an artist. Right at the moment, you have an idea to improve yourself.
Mm.
Where do you want to see yourself? Have you thought about how you want to see yourself in maybe 5 years, 2 years? I don't know. How do you think about that?
Yeah, good question. I have spent the last several years really
Mhm.
developing my business,
Yeah,
really developing my course, my business model. I've kind of done it backwards compared to some artists where they might
yeah,
really rely on painting sales first, and
yeah,
then teaching would be something else they might do on the side.
yeah,
I, being, home with a family, working, trying to figure out this puzzle, have done it the other way. And so I've spent a lot of time developing that part of what I do. My goal over the next few years is to pass off some things that I can pass off, as like kind of like editing, things like that,
yeah,
and really just deep dive more into exploring watercolor for myself. What am I'm kind of I wouldn't say a newborn, but I'm pretty early on. I'm only a
yeah,
decade in,
yeah,
for painting. I have a lot more to say. I have a lot more to learn. I
yeah,
have, you know, my style is still evolving.
yeah,
I'm working through so many things like that. And so I'd say over the next 5 years, I just want to develop more of who Matt White is as an artist,
sure.
and continue to travel, continue to absorb inspiration, and just see. My whole goal when I picked up a brush, was to never minimize myself in what I do, never try to downplay what I'm doing, and to see how far I can go with it,
Yeah,
how good I can be as a painter, right?
yeah,
And how satisfying what I paint can make me.
yeah,
Um, I will say that because I haven't developed my business isn't built around doing commissions. I don't take on commissions like I have in the
yeah,
past, but it's not that for me isn't what excites me about painting.
sure.
And I like to paint what I like to paint, and if people want to purchase or partake in that, that's good. But I've got to paint for myself. And so
Yeah,
that's where I see myself going over the next 5 years, is really leaning into that, just going deeper in what I'm doing, what I'm
yeah,
creating, and see what comes of it.
yeah. Now, that's a good answer. What about, can we just briefly touch about marketing? So,
Yeah.
any tips about, is your YouTube your primary
Yes.
channel at the moment? YouTube
Yeah.
is your primary
YouTube
channel?
is, um, it's kind of the engine for my business.
Yeah,
It is how I acquire new clients.
yeah,
You know, my number one tip to artists is start building your email list now.
yeah,
Email lists are king.
yeah,
Um, the algorithm changes,
yeah,
the platforms change. YouTube tomorrow could say there's no more external links, on your thumbnail, so you can't take them to another site to offer them something. That would significantly hamper my business.
Yes.
And so the email list is the only audience that you own, right? And so
Yes.
while Instagram changes, TikTok will change and YouTube
Yes.
will change. That thing is the same. So do that. Build an
Yes.
email list. Start today. Even if you don't have anything that you're selling or offering, start building that email list. That's what I would
Yes.
say.
No, no. As I said, is like I just started early this year, so
Mm,
I've just got started a email list, and then I'm kicking myself that I shouldn't have started earlier because I've been teaching for a while. I didn't.
mm.
Yeah, but it is one of those kind of things.
Yeah, it's one of those things you don't think early
Yeah,
on. You're like, what would I do with an email list? That's like
yeah,
boring,
yeah.
or that's old, or whatever.
So
It's not as like sexy as social media and things
yeah,
like that, but
yeah,
it's proven and it's not going anywhere right now.
yeah. So one of the articles I think probably you will enjoy talking to you is there's a Wired editor in chief. No, he's not editor in chief. Kevin Kelly. He wrote a blog called "The Long Tail" or 1,000 True Fans. That one was such an inspirational
Hmm,
essay, is because what he talks about in a simple way, you don't need be a Taylor Swift and have millions of
right.
fans. You need is 1,000 true fans
Yeah.
who will pay you enough to continue what you're doing.
Yes.
So he talks about just making sure you have 1,000 true fans. 1,000 number might change vary depending on the industry, but he talks about cultivating or making sure you have enough fan followers so that you can, for the rest of your life, you can enjoy doing watercolors, and people will come join your watercolor
Yeah.
courses, be your brand ambassadors, and then pick your book, talk about other things.
That's
I
right.
will. Kevin Kelly. It's called 1,000 True Fans. It's
Hmm.
literally about 5 minutes read,
Yeah,
but
send that
fantastically
over to
written.
me. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's just a fantastic article about how and why people should pursue whatever passion there is, right? And then what you're talking about is not only following the passion, but you are very smart in trying to find a market fit,
Hmm.
right? So because it's like there are a lot of people who follow passion, but they end up not making any money or living, but also trying to figure out how to make a market fit
Yeah.
is an important decision, which I am slowly trying to think myself in 6 or 7 years. That's where I'm trying to think about
Hmm.
is, yeah, but those are the similar lines, right?
Yeah.
Every 5 years you think about, oh shit, I should have done that 5 years ago. My question right now is, what is that I'm going to be regretting in 5 years, saying that, oh shit, I should have done it right now?
So
That's a question which bothers me all the time. Is like,
that's a smart question.
because I keep thinking about what is it I should be doing right now, which I'll ask in 5 years. And historically, I keep thinking about minimizing the risk, but I never taken big risk.
Hmm.
And in the last few years, I could have taken more risk. So I'm just trying to these days try to take a few more risk. Nothing worse has happened so far, right?
Good for you.
I'm an immigrant, settled in a country, doing a living. English is not even my first language, right?
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of taking a chance and then doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm just trying to think
Yeah.
about.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
great.
Uh, I know we got. I'm appreciative of your time. Do you got a few more minutes to just quick follow
I
up
do.
questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. So quick questions is like, let's talk about just few of the materials, right? So favorite brushes. What brushes do you use?
I like a Skoda quite a bit.
Okay.
I specifically, I have a good mop brush from
Hmm.
Escoda, but I also really like their Escoda Perla brushes.
Sure.
Just really good points.
Yeah.
And I just find myself using those quite a bit. So
Yeah.
that's what I use. Soft Aqua makes a good affordable mop.
Yeah.
But yeah, Escoda's.
Yeah. I think is the Ultimo is their natural hair. I think the Perla is the synthetic one. I think so.
Mhm.
These days synthetic has come a long, long way.
Yeah.
Even there's the other Italian brush called Tintoretto or something like that.
Mm.
Their brush are affordable, but the synthetic brushes these days are excellent qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do you generally use round brushes? Do you go to flat, or at the moment it's just round brushes?
Round. Yeah.
Round. Okay.
Yeah. I pretty much use all round.
Yeah. What paper do you use?
Yeah. I use Saunders Waterford cold press 140 pound.
Cold press. Okay.
Yeah.
So I same paper, but I use little rough paper. I
Mhm.
like the little rough pigments.
Daniel Smith is what I like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that a go-to pigments, or do you have a minimum set of pigments which you go over and over again?
I mean, I use a lot of raw sienna,
Yeah.
but the standards: raw sienna, cobalt blue.
Hmm.
Lavender is kind of a unique one that I use. A little bit has a little
Hmm.
bit of opaqueness to it. I like
Yeah.
putting a little bit of that in mixtures.
Yeah.
Um, but burnt sienna, raw sienna,
Yeah.
cobalt blue, rose madder permanent,
Yeah.
uh, raw umber, a lot of the good
Yeah.
ones.
A lot of the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but Daniel Smith. So, do you prefer swapping, changing to other manufacturers, or are you just happy with Daniel Smith at the moment?
It's kind of what I learned with, and I feel
Yeah.
like I know what works. And
Yeah.
I've dabbled with a few other brands, but it's the one
Hmm.
that I keep coming back to.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Easel.
So indoors, I use it's like an architectural like drafting table,
Okay.
and you
Yeah.
can kind of change the angle. Usually I'm
Yes.
at like a 35-degree angle
Okay.
on
It's
that.
quite steep compared to others. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
outdoors, I have a nice paint box that was
Yeah.
made, a
Yeah.
handmade kind of paint box I put up on a tripod
Yeah.
and pretty compact. So that's
Yeah.
what I like to use outdoors.
So, what about your palette? Do you have a separate palette?
Yeah, I use a John Pike palette.
Mm.
Um, Big, lots of mixing space, which is
Yeah.
great. And then
Yeah.
outdoors, I use a brass palette that kind of opens up and has a good mixing space. And I just kind
Yeah.
of hold that in my hand while I paint.
Yeah. Yeah. And any advice you want to, or let me re-ask: if you go back 10 years, what would you do differently from what you're doing right now?
I would just say if I could talk to 10-year-old or Matt 10 years ago,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just say I would just be encouraging and
Yeah.
say, like we were talking about self-talk,
Yeah.
be kind to yourself
Yeah.
and keep working at it and stay on course.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. 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 Any favorite artists? You mentioned Joseph. Is there any other artist you like?
Yeah, Andy Evenson,
Yeah.
obviously big inspiration of
Hmm.
mine. And let me think.
Past or present. So it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be.
Well, John Singer Sargent, you have to throw
Yeah.
him out there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, let me think just a sec here. There's an Australian watercolor artist that I don't think he gets enough credit. His name is Ross Patterson. You ever
Ross
heard of
Patterson.
Ross Patterson?
No. I will
Oh
have
my
look it up.
goodness, that
Because
that
I think the most common ones, the popular ones, are the David Tyler, Joseph,
yeah.
Herman Pickle, and other these things people
Yeah, I
keep
love
coming.
Herman Pekel. I'd love to do a workshop with him
Yeah,
sometime.
yeah,
But Ross Patterson, he's another big inspiration of mine. Man,
yeah,
he just has such a lovely way that he sees value and mixes color and just a really
mm,
loose approach, but so technically sound.
yeah.
He's great. So
I will have
I'm
a, I need to
probably
have a look.
leaving out a few as well, but
Yeah,
those are some of the big ones I pay attention.
yeah. But these days, it's so many good artists.
Yeah.
Probably because of the social media, but it's so easy to access such good watercolor artists these
Yes.
days. I mean, I'm always in awe of how many people are
Yeah.
doing watercolor. Uh, what about any favorite books you tend to go? You mentioned The Gain. Is there any other
Oh,
books you tend to
oh,
go?
Gap in the Gain. Let me see if there's any. My thing is, I tend to buy. I don't do this as much anymore. I buy a lot of art books, and then they just kind of
Yeah,
sit around. I look at the paintings, and they kind of sit around. So I've stopped
yeah,
kind of doing that as much. Um, let's see. Yeah, Gap and Gain is the Gap in the Gain is probably the one
yeah.
I'd say the most, just because it deals so much with, um, you know, people in any field, but
Hmm.
creative field as well can we get in that comparison game that is so unhealthy, and just like
Yeah,
realizing that you're running your own race. I think that was
yeah,
the biggest takeaway from that, and
yeah.
a good message for all of us.
No, absolutely. Any last parting words, Matt, you want to share with people? Any upcoming workshop, uh, anything?
Things are relatively quiet for me right now. I'm in the summer months here, so
Yeah.
I'm let's see. This will come out later, so I will be gearing up for a retreat in 2026 to Spain. So
Hmm.
that's I'll be painting, taking a group there. And other than that, I'll just be here painting away and putting out a weekly YouTube video. So yeah, I would just say subscribe to my channel if you haven't. I also have a good resource for people that's free. If they go to
Hmm.
learntopaintwatercolor.com, I have this
Hmm.
little guide that they can download for free,
Yeah,
and they can check that out as well.
absolutely. I will make sure all the links you mentioned is in the show notes. Where's the most best way to be in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Instagram,
Hmm.
m.white.art. You can follow me there. Also, just my teaching site is learntopaintwatercolor.com. You can always see what's going on there. And from there, you can get on my email list.
Sure.
So any workshops I'm doing, any
Yeah.
new thing that's happening with me,
Yeah.
I'll be emailing that out for sure.
Sure. No, it's been a blast, Matt. Thank you so much. And
Thank you
I
for
feel more talking to you. I feel a little more connected when I look at your paintings next time. I feel it's like there's more
yeah.
to your paintings than just. It's good to chat with you.
Yeah, I this was a really nice conversation. It was great to connect with you, and
Yeah,
I'll definitely be following your podcast and excited to see what's coming.
Matt. Thank you so much for the painting. Such a vivid portrait of your creative path. I'm inspired, and definitely, I think people should will get a lot of advice from your watercolor. And Matt has a lot of treats coming from in Sicily next year. And then thank you again for listeners to listen to Wet on Wet. And then if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and put in some comments. And if it's okay, then Matt can answer those comments as well.